Hey guys, so being top 50 techies with basically over 550 games now and playing around like 5k average at the minute, I'm going to show you how I play the new techies and hopefully teach you. The new techies is great. He's definitely not as cheesy as before, but can be a lot more effective around the map than previously. You play him like a greedy position 4, like think along the lines of roaming Ricky or, greedy 4s like Bounty Hunter. So before loading in, there is some stuff you need to do. You need to turn unique keys on in the options, and you need to turn quick cast for all your abilities off. This is really important because you want to maximize the efficiency of your red mines, stasis and green mines. This allows you to stack mines to ensure you get some kills. For example, here is me stacking some mines using this method to kill. Into the game, you want to say you're supporting, click on either top or bot, preferably going to the off lane because you want to make sure that you lane against 2 heroes as opposed to like a solo off Tide Hunter. Okay, so the starting build. Your starting build will either be one of 2 things. I've had the most success with... this is only when your support has bought all the items though. The most success I've had so far is a null talisman, 2 clarities, and a TP. The problem with this build is that it requires you to lose no gold at the start through people not picking, and it requires your support to basically be full position 5 for you. The good thing about this build is it gives you a null talisman, which allows you to hit a lot harder because you obviously hit like a, you don't hit for much damage. It's like 30 base damage on techies. And the other build is if your support hasn't bought all the items, what you want to do is hopefully grab the courier, TP, tangos, and spend the rest on clarities. If you don't want to spend too much on clarities because you're not going to mine too much at the start, feel free to grab a soul ring recipe as well. What you want to do here is max mines and then blast off. You want to focus on getting soul ring into arcanes. This is a pretty standard build at the moment, and I rarely deviate from it unless I'm like forced to solo off lane and like the carry can't farm because they're a tri-lane or something. And then I'll typically build into 2 nulls, which are useful for just surviving and dealing damage. Laning is probably the most fun part of the new version of techies. You can't get the double and triple kills that you used to with Alt Suicide, but you can get a core farmed instead, which is a lot more beneficial for your team. In this clip, you'll see Dazzle trigger the mine here. Creeps can't trigger that mine, and it is useful for basically just killing people and harassing. One of the key things for the early levels is being on low HP. This can easily be done by focusing on auto-attacking the enemy. This draws creep aggro onto you and allows you to damage the enemy as well. As get yourself on relatively low HP, you can basically control how much HP you're on. This is so after you've used all your mana to place spines, you can basically do a lot of damage to the enemy and then deny yourself and TP back and place more mines because you'll constantly be throwing out mines and blast off. I don't really recommend doing this against a tri-lane or if the enemy has a tanky hero like Wraith King, or if they have a lot of stuns, because if you're getting yourself low HP, you're basically just going to die relatively quickly.
Oh my god, look at that face!
If you're feeling suicidal, you've come to the right place.
Mines are also really good for harassment if you know how to place them. Like here, you can see the Dazzle taking a lot of damage from just walking in the wrong place. You can see a lot where I use Blast Off as well, which is out of vision and on as many targets as possible to get your maximum value from the health loss. Or preferably sometimes even a suicide just to get back and get the mana. The main focus of laning mines is that basically if they dive you or your cores, you can basically punish them for doing so. But the main thing you want to do is not to try focus on baiting them, as they'll kind of see this and they'll think, hey, there's mines there, or you'll attract creeps, or they'll just kill you before you even get there. You basically kind of need to let it happen naturally, which is kind of hard to understand, but you'll get the feel for it after a couple of games. The biggest factor to hiding mines is that you have to basically see the enemy has to not see them as they walk past, because if they see them and they're good players, they'll just either walk back or walk back and walk in them and get basically a 330 gold, which is really bad. One of the main things you want to focus on with the baiting mines is almost assuming a triangle, because if you get a triangle and the enemy don't see the first mines, they'll basically be dead by the time that the second and third go off. Here's the game shown at 8 times speed of the mines I place. In this game, I had a Necro that basically had an autistic breakdown and demanded jungle because I picked Techies. You will get some people like this in these games. So I went top with him, and he said, go away, started jungling because he was having a breakdown. And what basically ended up happening was Morana said, don't worry, I won't roam, I'll solo off. So I went bot support instead. Because I didn't have any time to start up mines, this was a much harder lane, so I thought I'd show this one. As I had no mines, at the 7-minute mark, but was still 3-0. Here I am because of how dedicated the Phoenix was to destroying mines, so I decided to focus on using Blast Off to harass PA constantly instead, since she's got a relatively low HP pool. My red mines are basically slowly planted over time to let the payoff to lead to a double kill here instead. So I'm very because I knew how committed Phoenix was, I always had to make sure I was out of vision and I was hiding. And they basically ended up in me getting a triple kill because I was very patient. And it's a lot about looking at enemy HP values, understanding what's the best situation to do. Also, don't be afraid to do stuff like ganking mid. If you've already placed a lot of mines and none of them are being set off, just smoke up and gank mid. Even if you don't do anything and you commit suicide on them, you've still done a lot of damage. And it's still like 400 damage, which they have to regen up.
I wanna fucking die.
The pretend skill build that I'm going for a lot at the moment is basically focusing on maxing red mines and then maxing blast off and getting green mines at 9 and always getting the mana regen talent at 10. The only exception to this is if the enemy have a lot of squishy heroes and I can justify grabbing the green mines at 6. If the enemy has heroes like PA or Weaver, then I'll get the greens a bit early because that's not too much of a mana investment to kill. The other situation is if my red mines aren't getting many kills and there's a lot of heroes rotating into the lane. My talent choices also vary depending on the game. If the enemy have a lot of annoying HP targets, like low HP targets like illusions or summons, then I'll grab it at 15, the increased cast range. Otherwise, unlike a lot of players, I like to grab the XP gain talent. This is just a matter of choice. This is because of how good Techies is with his level 20 and 25 talents. At level 20, I'll grab the GPM talent unless I'm the only one doing well on my team and the respawn talent is much better in that situation. A lot of people like going for the respawn talent, but I prefer the GPM because if you're losing and you want to go with the greedy option and take the high ground and delay the game, then the GPM talent pays off a lot over a long time. And 25 talent is like always cooldown reduction, like always. Blast off damage isn't even a thing to consider. This is because your level 25 talent combos with Octarine Core and gives you just a bunch of cooldown reduction. This is my item build, which is pretty standard for me and for a couple of people. And I've started getting starting items I've already covered, but what I always do is after starting items, Soul Ring into Arcanes, into Yules, and then it can kind of change to what you want. What I do most of the time is go Ags Octarine Core. But I'm starting to not like Ags more and more if we're not really pushing and we're not really defending. because the damage increase is only 150 by about the time you get Ags, which isn't really worth it. A lot of people tend to go Force Staff somewhere in that build, but I only go Force Staff when I'm on high ground and we can't really leave the base, and I use it to force people into mines, basically.
Is he brave enough?
A lot of high-ranking Techies players choose to go Force Staff even after Soul Ring and Brown Boots, because they like it that much, but I'm not too much a big fan of it. And basically you need to go whatever the team needs after your Yules, because you are taking up a lot and you need to give the team back something. That can range pretty much anywhere from Lotus to Sheepstick to Bloodthorn to Deso to all sorts of items. But as I said, my typical item build is Soul Ring, Arcanes, Yules, into Ags, into Octarine is typically my build.
Okay, so your mid game can go one of two ways, I've found, which is really well or really badly. Also, don't be afraid of buying a lot of clarities in this phase if you're struggling to keep up on mana because you haven't got your mana regen item from your Yules yet. This is a really good idea because not only does it provide a lot of mana regen that's cheap, it can also be stored in your backpack. There's a couple of ways to get kills in the mid game, however your mind placements all depend on you being able to read the game and being able to react to enemy movement. You'll improve on this over time as you play more and more of the hero, but you'll get a general idea relatively quickly. During the mid game you'll probably be 11ish or 10ish, so try focus on getting that 12 before you start your stasis combos. And don't suicide for mana anymore, as it's not worth it. Just focus on enemy movements, read them, and react. Some good idea for reading the enemy movements if you're not very good at it. It's are they on your side of the map, then place defensive mines. Are they pushing? Then place tower mines. Are they rotating onto your cores? Then place mines in pathways. If they're just AFK farming, place mines in enemy jungle pathways to disrupt farm patterns. Smokes are really useful for this, and if you're going to need wards up as well if you want to do this as well. Knowing where to place mines is really important, but the one thing you must focus on is planting them near your team, because if you leave your team to play 4 versus 5, that's really bad. So keep TP on you if you plan to place mines away from your team, or you can always opt for an early bit of travel, which I sometimes do. This is only because of how strong Blast Off is in the mid game. Not for you, not for the damage, but to basically land what is effectively a global silence duration silence on the enemy. That's like a 7-second silence, which can change teamfights drastically. Against heroes like OD or Invoker, this is like game changing. Just try not to use it as initiation, because you want to be able to focus on using it as like kind of a counter initiation. So when they overextend, think how a Magnus RPs or a Warlock uses his ult for counter initiation. The main thing you want to do in fights is place down stasis in the middle of fights. Landmines where it's kind of hard to hit them, and you can just stand back and throw your green mines. There are probably 3 different-ish ways to lay trap. There's obviously like the middle of the lane ones, which is quite costly, but can reward lots and lots of kills, like multi-kills. And the placement on these, again, is just dependent on the game and your ability to judge where people are going. So place them near towers, middle of the lane, in the middle of the jungle, wherever you feel the enemy is going to rotate into next. The other way is the double mine stasis, which is a bit greedier, and it can only really be used during the mid game, since you can only like kind of predict one way of moving up the stairs to kill them. Here's a basic example of the double mine stasis. Placing these on areas people stay on for a certain amount of time, like stairs, bounty runes, where they won't instantly see them. The other way, which is the safe way and will net you kills most of the time, is stacking mines upon stasis. This is because the route and the explosion radius, like all of the mines have the same trigger radius. which means if you stack them on top of each other, you can basically get kills very easy. If you're too lazy to figure this all out, I'll just link my damage calculation notepad document, so it's just a quick glance, you don't have to do the maths. To stack mines like this really neatly, you basically have to place the stasis and then select yourself and the stasis in a control group by clicking and dragging over the stasis and your hero, and this will allow you to they'll like be in the same box, so you just place the press the mine icon and place it on top of the stasis picture, and this will put the mines directly on top of each other. The mid game for Techies is basically all focused on killing and disrupting and silencing the enemy. Basically be as annoying as possible to maximize your impact. Now late game can be one of two things for Techies. You're on your high ground or the enemy is on theirs. First, I'll cover if you're losing. This is what Techies is infamous for, his disgusting high ground defense. I've won and come back in more games than I can count due to this. However, this entirely depends on what you think the enemy is going to do, because I tend to focus on mining 2 lanes as opposed to all 3, which is always mid, and in the lane is close to Roshan. This is because I find it better to focus on 2 lanes as opposed to 3 due to the unlikeliness of them pushing the lane which isn't those 2. This is only when when they haven't got any of your racks and you're not 25. If you're 25, you have the cooldown reduction, which means you can get away with mining all 3. Also, don't forget to use your sign for high ground defense. I place mines in front of the tower. This is for the 4-staff mines, because they often get close, and if you take increased cast range, then you can force them from even further away, which is really helpful, because it often deals with heroes like Drow and Sniper that stick on the low grounds, and then they basically become an easy kill. And the other place I place mines is either to the left or the right, depending on what type of heroes they've got. You place them to one side of the tower, while being surrounded in stasis and red mines. The main skill of high ground is using control groups, which I'll cover later as it needs its own segment due to how complicated it can get. The other part of the late game is if you're winning. Winning is nice and relaxing because it just involves making mine stacks just out of vision and placing them on the enemy low ground. So if there's a fight, you'll be able to control it, or you can place them to pick off, and that will allow you to go high ground. The real trick to breaking high ground with Techies, however, is placing a minefield sign on the enemy high ground. This is an amazing trick, but requires you to have ags. Basically, how it works is the minefield sign, it basically stops true sight from seeing mines, so you can stay all the way back while placing mines on enemy high ground, stasis, and landmines to damage the tower. This late game segment is very short due to it being able to go so many ways, but defending high ground is mainly about control groups, which will be the focus of the next segment.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me.
Okay, so control groups. Control groups are relatively difficult to understand. Once you get a hang of them, they're fine. So let's place 3 mines, or 4 mines. We want to press Control and 4, and this will assign them to the 4 key. So if we need 4 mines to blow them up, then 4. Or, if you want to place 5 down, highlight over them, Control and 4. This is really handy because if you only want to blow up 3 mines, you just shift click away and then Control and 4. So do that, Control and 4. These will now be 3 mines will be bound to your 4 key. To set these up, what you do is you go into the options and control groups. So you can set, I'll set mine to 4, 5, keypad 4, and 7. You can use whatever you want, but it's really just a matter of choice. So there's this bug currently that not many people know about. It isn't useful, but it's quite cool. So if you have an Aether Lens and the cast range talent, you can stack red mines basically. But it's only on certain points of the map which count as being out of bounds. It's really only useful on Radiant and in both secret shops. I haven't really found much else where it's useful sadly, because it only appears to be the edges of the map. But it's kind of cool and can be used to get some kills later on.
Also remember that you can quickly farm Crit Wave with just one mine in the first 20 minutes or so. That's about it for me anyway. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Twitch, and I stream quite often, so best of luck in your Techies games.
No one likes you, Techies. Just go away.